everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back at long last to another Expanse reaction video. So today I'm going to be watching, reviewing, and reacting to Season 4, Episode 2 of The Expanse. It had been a little while, as you guys know, between me watching Episode 1 and now me getting to Episode 2 of The Expanse. So I went back and rewatched Episode 1 just yesterday in anticipation of being able to film this. I've been very impatient to get back to this series and impatient to get back to you guys, so I'm happy to be here. I'm not like in the best physical condition, in addition to my various chronic health issues, as you can probably hear. I have had a bit of a virus and haven't really been able to speak that well for the last few days, but I am sort of a voice at this point, so finally sitting down and able to film this. So the last episode of The Expanse, I talked quite a bit at the end of my episode 1 video, so if you didn't check that out, go check that out, about my thoughts and my feelings about the direction of the season so far, about what I predict maybe might happen, questions that I had. And I was very pleased with the first episode, even though, you know, a lot of it was just kind of setting the groundwork for what was to come, catching us up with all of our characters and where they are, what they've been doing. And some of the things, you know, were not particularly surprising because I feel like a lot of what we saw in the previews, in the build-up, was in the first episode, which that actually to me is yay, good, because they're not giving away too much about the whole season right off the bat. But there was some funny and surprising stuff, some great classic Avasarala moments. I was very pleased by how much she was present in the first episode, since we didn't see much of her at all at the last half of Season 3. I missed her. Classic line about Holden. Don't stick your dick in it. Oh, it was beautiful. I loved it. It was fantastic. It was good to see everybody again. So I'm really excited to keep going and see how the season's going to develop now that we're getting into things and all our pieces are in place. So just apologies once again for my voice and that I'm not like in the best appearance-wise for this video. It's kind of stupid, but I always want to try to look decent on video, so I feel a bit weird when I'm sick and not, but I'm happy to finally be watching more Expanse. So, putting those concerns aside, let's finally get into this episode 2 together. I'm excited, alright? Here we go.
That's very terrestrial thinking.
Oh, is it? Life on Earth developed using potassium, carbon, and calcium, but it could just as easily have been arsenic, silicon, and iron. To us, this looks like a machine, but on this planet, it could be an organism.
That's interesting.
Looks like the inside of the rig station. That's protomolecule tech.
If it's active.
Yeah, we should test everyone for infection.
Care to guess where it came from?
Feel like that could start a panic.
We're going there anyway.
I don't see any of those bugs. Hey, Murdy. It's like a blasting cap to you?
It's mercury. And yes, it does.
You see the scorches in these beams? You guys didn't have the main drive on when you came down, did you?
No, we did not.
I think someone blew up this pad.
Someone I mean, okay, so I guess it wasn't the protomolecule tech swarm thing we saw.
That's not exactly conclusive. Stay on it, see what develops.
Will do.
But like, you could say someone, if
Passed over some
someone
structures like
blew it
this
up.
during our descent.
The Israel mapped hundreds of them, all over the continent. They're clearly not natural formations. Our scans indicate they extend underground,
How far down?
deeper than our radar could penetrate.
Settlers have anything to say about it? They've been here longer than any of us.
Only that there was no lithium here and they never found a way in. You know how belters are. If they can't use it, it doesn't exist. Yeah, you've got us totally figured out.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it would have to be some of the settlers that attacked them. And if so, I'm not sure if Amos, like, so clearly just openly stating that to...
Let me take you back.
What's his name?
Just got here. There's no shame in easing into it.
Mertry.
Getting used to the horizon and
Mercury.
open spaces. If it wasn't for, you know,
Smart.
this might even be fun.
You speak for this camp?
Where did you get this?
At the pad.
You people blow up that pad deliberately. That's what took down our shuttle. You killed a lot of my people.
That's ridiculous. We needed that landing pad to get our lithium into orbit.
The bugs kill your shuttle. You're trying to pin it on us like Guinness always do.
Do the right thing. Get the word out, and you have until morning to give me the people that planted the bomb.
We will not be
Either
intimidated.
they pay for this, or you all will.
So positive.
They ID each other by drive signature. So, I ran the UNN's unknown against the Rex navs and comlogs, and look what I found.
And Asper would know how belted pirates operate, right?
Marco Inaros. How well do you know him?
Only by reputation.
Naomi said you knew what he did to her. She's one of the smartest people I've ever met. How did Marco Inaros get his hooks in her?
Ah, he's charismatic. He's uncompromising. He's very dangerous.
The father of her
Like
kid?
that, cast a spell.
They also make a lot of enemies. Which factions hate him the most?
The father of Naomi's kid who took her kid.
Sargas.
This will need to be sanctioned. Talk to Dawes. I'll reach out to Fred Johnson.
We're
take a
about
big
to see
bounty to
him
bring
this
this one in.
season? Ooh. That I did not see coming. I did not see that coming.
Not even a goodbye.
You were busy, but it was nice to meet your husband.
Be careful. He is a charmer, but he'll only break your heart.
He was the only one who would even speak to me.
I'm surprised that Martians would be so ungracious.
Did Admiral Souther really say any of that?
I don't know. We rarely spoke. He didn't much care for
You were
me.
using me tonight, just like you used him, playing some game that I don't understand. It was humiliating.
I wasn't trying to embarrass you. I wanted to see
I had no place at the table.
show the rest of the idiots in that room that you still have friends in high places.
All they saw was Earth calling its lapdog to heel.
Come and work for me.
What?
Fuck these people. If they don't see how glorious you are, they don't deserve you.
I don't need you to save me. You don't owe me this.
Bobby.
Good night, ma'am.
I mean, she's right though, Bobby. She's right. And I get why Bobby would say no, but...
I gotta file a report.
Oh,
I gotta tell
Miller.
them that it's finish the paperwork. I know.
You're so fucked.
David's out. For good. And next time he won't be here next time.
Get up! I feel like this is not gonna just end, but That girl had no idea who she was messing with.
All right, no coma this time, kid. I promise. But we both need to figure out who killed the builders. I get my answers, you get yours.
I'd settle for just not having your voice in my head.
One voice in his head. Well, that would be swell.
What does that mean?
100,000 people died on arrows. Try carrying that around in your skull.
You still hear their voices?
Voices. Memories. Old woman humming her wedding song. Little kid having a nightmare. People screaming for a death that never comes.
I'm sorry.
Well, you finish this thing. Maybe we can all finally get some sleep, huh?
I mean, would they though? Unless they got rid of the... Oh! Because Ava's made friends.
Now that was a threat.
Fuck!
You just executed him? You can't just murder someone out in the open. Uh-oh.
Jim? Some...
Come on! Come on! Come here!
What the hell, Miller? Oh yeah, no coma. No coma. You just almost get crushed to death inside of it, that's all.
Are you okay?
Yeah, we're all right.
What the fuck was that?
What the hell did you do?
No! What did he... Okay, so what did they just, like... Either... bring it back to life, or like... Or like, wake it up from a dormant state or something? The proto-molecule tech? Ah! Oh my god. And, I mean, it has some sort of correlation not just with those giant structures, which the doctor said early in the episode went so far underground that they couldn't tell how deep they were with any of their tools, but also has some sort of connection with literal lightning coming from the sky. And they've now woken it all up with who knows what the consequences of that are going to be. I think it'll be really interesting to see the interactions with the people and also maybe the actual planet itself, because the doctor specifically was talking about the concept of there being 3 biodomes. So one thing that I would be curious about is how that's going to come into play, because I imagine that's not something that they would have really been touching upon unless it was going to be potentially significant in the future. So That I'm curious about. But I mean, I'm also just curious about what exactly is happening with like these ships waking up or coming to life or whatever. And did Miller, whatever sort of Miller, proto Miller, whatever, know exactly what was going to happen there? I have a feeling based on the things that he was saying to Holden that he didn't know exactly what was going to happen. He was saying things about is flipping switches and seeing what turns on. So he had a sense that something would be woken up, turned on, but maybe he doesn't know exactly what or in what capacity. I like to think he didn't realize that thing was gonna close in the way that it did. I'm sure he doesn't want Holden to just be squished to death, so... But maybe you shouldn't go around just telling him to do things and promising, oh, it'll be fine, no coma, when he doesn't have any clue of what actually is going to happen. Though I do think it's interesting to think about his purpose, Miller's purpose here. Because on the one hand, he's basically, right, being like driven. He's being driven on a mission that was given to him by the protomolecule. The protomolecule rebuilt him to communicate with Holden for a purpose. Maybe it was to wake this stuff up. Who knows what it was? So he has that goal. But then he was also talking about, getting rid of all the voices in his head and allowing everyone to just die and sleep, and including maybe himself. So seems like he maybe has his own sort of goals that are not exactly the same as the protomolecules, which is interesting because then it gets back into the whole discussion of how much of him is actually Miller in some sort of sentient conscious form and how much is just created by and driven by the protomolecule, which is something we've talked about ever since this form of Miller first appeared. But I think it's interesting that he maybe has this kind of dual purpose thing going on, because that also is something that you see with Holden and the Rossi crew generally, and that was highlighted in this episode pretty well also, because on the one hand, they're there for a very practical and political purpose, right? Avasarala has sent them there specifically to determine whether it's safe and to try to make sure there's no conflicts going on between the Belters and the company people that are there on the ground, and just really to make sure that it's not a dangerous situation that could be another Eros. And if it is, which, all of this seems like a bad sign to me for that, but if it is, they're supposed to get everyone to leave, basically, to try and protect them. Because Avasarala is afraid of the consequences of humans going out through the ring and into these different worlds when we don't know much about the protomolecule and the creatures, whatever, that built it, how their civilization was destroyed, anything like that. So they have that purpose, that political purpose. And then they also have whatever purpose that the protomolecule itself, in the form of Miller and through Holden, is pushing them to do out here. Yeah, so it's interesting. So there's that same sort of conflict and dynamic going on, and you can see it here in this episode where you have them very much, first of all, trying to deal with all the problems in the camp, but then despite, going out with the doctor, members of the camp, to look at this, despite trying to help people earlier, despite, being concerned with trying to keep peace, still, in the middle of the night, when Miller comes to Holden and says, we gotta go do something, he goes out there and he does it without thinking about the potential consequences to the settlers, and not talking to any of them at all about, hey, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna try to turn this thing on. Okay, cool. So again, I just think it's interesting to see how these kind of conflicting goals are gonna come into play continuously going forward. How not just Miller but Holden and the whole Rossi crew are gonna reconcile that, especially if there's a real conflict of interests there. So I'll be very interested to see how that develops going forward. Overall, I thought the episode was very good, interesting. I liked that we got more stuff with Bobby and Christian. I think that they're a great pairing. I really liked how Christian just kind of like stood up for Bobby there, even though Bobby had felt like she was being used. You know, she says, you know, no, she sees how distressed she is and what she's clearly going through there on Mars. And she's basically like, fuck these people. You are better than they could possibly imagine. If they don't see your worth, come with me. That's just pure Avasarala and a great moment that I loved it. But of course, Bobby says no. In her heart, even if most of the people on Mars are turning away from her, vilifying her, not recognizing why she did the things that she did, she still feels like, no, I'm a Martian, even if my only way of helping Mars is to work this really basic labor job. I guess that's what I'm gonna do. But then we also have the situation now that's developing with her family and whatever this drug thing is going to be. I'm anticipating that that's going to come back on her, especially since the little girlfriend was saying like, oh, well, you're going to regret this. And she already had a conflict with the police, thinking that she had something to do with the killing that was there of the customs agent, which she didn't, but apparently her nephew's girlfriend did. So she is tied to it, and now she's involved in all of this dynamic. So maybe like she'll have to get back in touch with Avasarala and end up going to work for her or getting her assistance after all, to try and deal with whatever this is. But yeah, I'm glad we're getting more of Bobby and more of Mars, and I'm interested to see how that progresses too, going forward. And so then, you know, we have a pretty big conflict that is being set up between the Belter settlers and the company people on the ground. It does look like, from everything that we saw, and Amos went to the site and was investigating, and he's on board with this idea as well, that some of the colonists, the Belter settlers, did indeed attack their shuttle, and they were responsible for that crash that killed a huge number of people and seriously injured a lot of other ones. You know, it's not particularly surprising considering a lot of the things that they've been saying throughout the course of the first couple episodes about, you know, this is our chance to start over, this is our one new place, you know, we came here on our own after you inners destroyed Ganymede and everything we'd built before, and you wouldn't give us any place to go, so we came here and we're building something new, and now inners want to come and take this from us too. No, we're not going to let that happen. So it makes sense in a way that they maybe would turn to violence to try and prevent that if they feel like that's what they need to do. But it's not as though, I don't know, it's not as though when some of them survived that they didn't just like kill them or even just let them be. They actively came and helped them. They saved a lot of their lives. So I'm assuming, and I feel like this is kind of what Bern Gorman's character was getting at too, when he was saying you have until a certain time, blah, blah, to deliver the people responsible to me. My assumption is that maybe it was just a few people or like a faction there, and that it wasn't everybody. And so in that sense, I think he was probably right. And I would have said that maybe the reasonable position for the settlers to take would indeed have been to find those people who did commit a criminal murderous act and, you know, hand them over to someone, maybe not Murtry, but, you know, Holden or somebody, because maybe they should be, you know, taken away to stand some sort of trial or something. And then that could potentially lead to a better peace between the company people and the rest of the settler colony. But for a couple of things, one, we know that Belters deeply distrust Inners, and for a lot of very good reasons, and I'm sure that it wouldn't just be as easy as saying, all right, we're going to hand these people over, because they certainly will all have, you know, friends, family in the community who wouldn't want that to happen, who wouldn't want them to be handed over to the Inners for prosecution or whatever. So that might be easier said than done. And then secondarily, of course, now we know that Murtry's just willing to execute people on the spot. Not even someone that he has evidence was actively involved in this or murdered anyone, but just because he said that he threatened him, that was a threat, so he just turns around and shoots him. So Murtry's insane. So I guess he's gonna be a pretty big problem throughout the course of the season. I don't know how they're gonna resolve this now, because now he's just straight up murdered someone out in the open in front of a bunch of other Belters and in front of, you know, his own employee who's now got a relationship with Amos going on, and in front of Amos. So it's not something that he could hide, even if he was trying to, which he couldn't. This is obviously going to be a major source of conflict that they'll have us going into at the beginning of the next episode. But then again, I'm assuming that the company people, even though it seems like, I could be wrong about this, but it seems like there's less of them. They seem to have the weapons. You know, the Belters don't seem to have a ton, considering that they were bartering for bullets for drinks with Amos. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then, of course, I mean, who knows if they actually even have time to have a conflict between the people and sort this out, because we don't know what's going to happen on the planet now that whatever Holden and Miller have woken up with the lightning strikes and everything is going on. So there's a lot leading into the next episode. Pretty big kind of cliffhanger moment for us there. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there was other stuff that I didn't touch. Oh, okay. And like the other big thing, and I can't believe I almost forgot this. I was just thinking back. I was like, all right, and what else was happening in the episode? Oh yeah, okay. We had Drummer and Ashford, so we had the stuff that was going on with the politicking between the UN and the Belt with the Terry, and I was like, oh, that's right! That was Naomi's ex, the father of her child, the man who stole her child and utterly screwed up her life, is apparently the person behind the pirating and the blowing up of this UN ship and killing a bunch of civilians, potential colonists. And so there's a chance that we're gonna be seeing him, we're gonna be meeting him, he's gonna be a part of the story. And that, to me, you know, amps up the whole Drummer Ashford side of things to be even more interesting than it already was. You know, those are already two characters that I find interesting, and I've always enjoyed their scenes, but now I'm even more curious about what's gonna happen there. Like, I can't wait. So a really good episode. I'm curious about all of the major storylines that seem to be going on. And I'm excited to see the next one. So, I'm hoping that I'm going to have this posted on Patreon by Friday, or Saturday, depending on how long it takes to end up video processing and everything. My computer's being a little funky. And then I want to get into the next episode next week at the beginning of the week, because I'm setting up a new schedule for Patreon postings, and then YouTube will follow. So my plan right now is for episode 3 to come out on Tuesday of the upcoming week. So you'll have pretty close to each other 2 episodes coming out, and I'm excited because I'll get to watch it, and hopefully my voice will be totally back to normal at that point. So, but all right, I think I've talked enough for this particular video, so I'm gonna wrap this up here. Just quickly, I apologize once again, guys, for the huge delay. I'm gonna make a separate video that's kind of talking about, like, more about my health issues and what's been going on. I don't want to take up this video with that, but just apologies for that once again, and I appreciate you sticking around and waiting on me. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you next time for episode 3. Bye!